Hey there, welcome to Talk to Me Tuesday on a Tuesday. I'm your host, Madi B. And today, here we are again, yet another important show and yet another important topic that we're going to talk about today. We're going to specify on natural disasters. So if you guys remember on August 29th, 2021, the 16th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina, Hurricane Ida made landfall near Port Fusion, Louisiana, devastating the town of Grand Isle. Now, that Hurricane Ida was a deadly and destructive Category 4 Atlantic hurricane that became the second most damaging and intense hurricane to make landfall in the U.S. state of Louisiana, on record behind Hurricane Katrina in 2005. I want to thank today our panel. We have an extremely amazing panel and group of attorneys that are going to be on today's show to highlight a little bit more on this topic. I would like to welcome Attorney Rochelle Guiton of D, Miller & Associates, PLLC, Attorney Tommy Kherkher, and Attorney Wynton Yates of the Kherkher Law Firm, PLLC. Guys, welcome to our show today. We are so grateful to have you guys. And I want to kind of get started and you guys letting us know a little bit about yourselves for the viewers that have never met you guys before.
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having us on. My name is Tommy Kherkher. I'm the managing member of the Kherkher Law Firm. We have offices in Houston, Lake Charles, and New Orleans. I'm going to be relatively quiet today. I'm a licensed Texas attorney, and I primarily head up the Houston office, but my colleague Wynton over here runs our New Orleans office.
Hey, I'm Wynton Yates. I work with Tommy doing these first-party insurance claims, dealing with hurricane relief and just helping families out here. It's really close to my heart because my family is from here. My roots are from here. They go deep in Louisiana. So being able to help my family, my friends, my neighbors out with these kind of issues that we deal with every year during hurricane season, which is getting worse year by year, it's something that's really close to me.
Yes, thank you.
Same here for me, Madi. I think everybody knows me, or at least that watches regularly on the show, but I'm attorney Rochelle Guiton, and I'm an attorney here at D. Miller & Associates. And, same as Wynton, I have those roots that run deep in Louisiana, and just really excited to get some expert knowledge out there to, the people of Louisiana and those that have been hit hard by the hurricane, and, to just kind of ease their minds and let them know that there are people out there that care, and hopefully they'll all get something out of this today.
Yes, thank you guys. And look, we're very excited to have you guys on the show to talk about, Hurricane Ida. That happened last August, right? And if you guys think about it, in 6 months, we're going to be back to hurricane season. So if for some reason someone that is watching right now did not experience Hurricane Ida, this information may help them for any future, hopefully not, tropical storms, hurricanes, and stuff like that. So now I want to go ahead and get started with Attorney Wynton Yates. You are located and practicing in Louisiana, like you mentioned. Now, the storm was something that was being watched across the news, and I remember in Houston watching it. So what was your initial thought when watching it and also living it?
My initial thought was I knew that this was going to be absolutely devastating. So prior to being an attorney, I was a television news reporter. So I was a field reporter for Channel 4 WWL-TV here in New Orleans for a few years. And part of what I did every year is I would be out in hip-deep floodwaters talking to people as their homes were flooded. I would be out in the storm as it was happening. And I just remember prior to that, having this feeling that it was going to be worse than anything that I had experienced firsthand, being out there in the floodwaters, talking to people as these things were happening. And I ended up evacuating with my family, and we have 2 small kids. And we ended up having to be evacuated for a month because the city was without power for 3 weeks. And in some cases, people didn't have power for a month. And we're talking total blackout throughout the city. We're talking no one in the city of New Orleans had power for 3 weeks. And this was in the middle of summer. It was 90 degrees. So inside people's homes were above 100 degrees. So when we did get a chance to come back to survey the damages that we had, and we had no idea what we were coming back to. And a lot of people from Louisiana know that feeling of, okay, we're evacuating and we're going to come back to what we come back to, and we're going to figure it out when we get back. So my wife and I just kind of on the way back, just accepted what we were going to come back to. And luckily we had damage. We had major roof damage. We had some interior damage, but it was nothing compared to what I've seen driving around and sitting with people in their homes that are having issues with their insurance companies. But yeah, my initial thoughts of the storm was that it was going to be devastating, and it proved itself to be so.
Well, thank you for sharing that. We're going to talk a little bit more about those damages that you experienced, as well as seeing other of your fellow community members as well that have experienced it. Now, Rochelle, your experience was a little bit different because you have family in Louisiana. So what was your initial thought when seeing the storm coming and not really knowing how bad it's going to be and not being able to help?
Sure. I mean, growing up in Louisiana, I feel like I grew up running from hurricanes. Everybody kind of knows that feeling. And my parents were always, of the mindset that you didn't risk it. If it looked to be a certain category, it was time to go, and you didn't question it. And so you pack up your things. And so generally, this time of year when it's looking pretty bad, I'm making those phone calls to my family members, opening up my home to them. And it was rough. My hometown was devastated. I'm from St. Charles Parish, and they had not been hit by a storm like that. I don't know that it's ever been hit that badly. I can recall people talking about Hurricane Betsy, but this was, years and years ago. And so it was pretty devastating. I had family that stayed with me for over a month until they could even, get to their homes and have power. The living situations were dire. When you think of that heat, like Wynton mentioned, you can't stay in a home with, the heat that high and not have running water and air conditioning. And so it was really rough. I went and visited, and, I cried. It's heartbreaking to think that people that you love and the things that they care about, and it's real hard to hear, right? Once you've been in that position where people say, well, it's just material things, and you can, you have your life and you can get those things back. And it's really hard. You've worked hard your whole life, and you lose the things that you've worked hard for. So it's difficult, and it's heartbreaking to see your family going through that.
Yeah, especially if, like Attorney Yates stated, that you guys have to just go back to your home and willing to whatever the damages are. Okay, here we go. And then to have to keep doing it again and again, that does hurt to keep, getting those materialistic things, those pictures, you lose them all. So I want to ask you guys, the attorneys that have dealt with, those that have been affected, seeing how hurricanes have devastated Louisiana and surrounding areas, right? Did people prepare for this storm, or did a lot of people try to stick this one out?
It's a mixture. People always prepare. By nature, living in Louisiana, we know to prepare. We know how to prepare. We know when to prepare. We know how to do that. That's a part of our life. We know how to get ready for a storm. Making the decision to leave is where people get in flux, because a lot of us have ridden out storms before. We've sat, we ride them out, we come out on the other end, and everything is fine. But I would, and I don't know if Rochelle would agree with me. I would say over the past 3 or 4 years, that decision to leave has gotten easier to make because the storms have gotten so much worse.
I would 100% agree with that.
The storms have just gotten so much worse. They're so much more intense, and they're so much more often. This last hurricane season, I love New Orleans. I love Louisiana. I've never had a thought of moving out of Louisiana until this past storm season, when we were just getting hit with storm after storm after storm after storm. Even the ones that missed us, it was just having to go through the mental gymnastics of, okay, If we leave, which way do we go? If it turns this way, then we got to go this way. If it turns this way, then we got to go this way. Are we going to be on the wet wall? Or are we going to be on the dry wall? There's so many decisions that go
and then add traffic. Add traffic to that.
Right. So I have family in Atlanta, and a lot of my family that's here will go to Atlanta to stay with my family in Atlanta. That's a 6 or 7 hour drive. That turned into a 13, 14, 15 hour drive. Oh. And then for a lot of people in Louisiana, it's more so a question of the financial capability to leave. It's not a matter of if you want to leave, is can you afford to leave? Because you got to pay for gas, you got to pay for food, you got to pay for a place to stay if you don't have family there. Evacuating is not a cheap option, especially for us. We left for a month. If you don't have a month's worth of money in the bank to be able to put yourself up in a hotel, eat food, and for us, we've got 2 little kids, so make sure they're fed and have their like it's an expensive decision to make to leave.
Right. And that makes sense. And I know a lot of viewers that are watching right now probably can relate, have been there or made those type of decisions that you guys are kind of talking about. Now, I kind of want to get into the information of the Hurricane Ida. It caused a lot of devastation, but I want you guys to really pinpoint what areas in Louisiana did this hurricane touch, or surrounding areas, or even surrounding states, if that's applicable.
I think one of the major things to point out before pointing out the location is the amount of damage that it caused. $75.25 billion worth of damage was caused by this storm. It hit between 14 and 15 different parishes. Hurricane Laura hit one parish and caused major devastation. Here with Ida, we're talking about 15 different parishes that were hit.
Wow. And like you mentioned, the property damage, billions upon billions of property damage. And I know right now you guys have, from being attorneys and property damage, what does that mean to you guys? We're going to talk about that here in a little bit. I want to kind of talk, I know Attorney Tommy Kherkher, you went to Louisiana as well with Attorney Rochelle Guiton and seeing the families that have been affected in those areas that you guys went and the locations. Can you tell us a little bit about this experience for you?
Sure. So a little pretext to this whole situation is on August 28th of 2020, almost exactly 1 year before Hurricane Ida made landfall, Hurricane Laura hit southwest Louisiana. And then on October 5th, some 45 odd days later, Hurricane Delta took almost an identical path, causing $30 billion worth of damage to the Lake Charles, Sulphur, Iowa area. And when that happened, our firm, like I said at the beginning, we have a Lake Charles office as well, started handling these cases. And to date, we have probably handled multiple hundreds, hundreds with hundreds, if not thousands more in our pipeline. So we've cut our teeth on this. This was not our first rodeo, so to speak. So when Ida happened, Rochelle and I are lucky enough to know each other through other means as well. We had never worked on a first-party insurance docket, but we went down to the community immediately after the storm, and we just met with people and talked to them and educated them about what their rights are, what to expect, and kind of laid out the process for them. As we were chatting before the show even started, when we went down to talk to the community, we didn't ask for one person to sign up with us because people weren't ready to have lawyers. And we tell people point blank, you should only hire a lawyer as a last resort. You should only hire a lawyer if the insurance company fails to do the right thing. You have to give the insurance company a shot to do the right thing. And I hope and I pray that they do the right thing, because that's why you buy insurance. But, as the months go on and time passes, inevitably people start to realize that, hey, listen, maybe the insurance company isn't going to come around and we're getting the short end of the stick. And now we're, about 6 months out of the storm, is when I think people are finally getting to the end of their rope. And Rochelle can corroborate or tell me differently, but that's pretty much what I laid out when we met with the community immediately after the storm. We just said, listen, y'all are in this for the long haul. And, I hope the insurance company is going to do the right thing. But just based on what I saw in Southwest Louisiana, I'm not too optimistic.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, Tommy. I think that initially they're looking for information. They want to make sure they're taking the right steps. They want to make sure, and really people don't want exorbitant amounts of money. They're not trying to get paid off of their claims. They just want their homes back to normal. They want a safe place to sleep while they're waiting for their homes to be fixed and things like that. And so I think essentially, that was our, attempt of just making sure that they know people are there that can talk them through it, but give the insurance companies an opportunity before, the frustration hits and things like that. And hopefully, my hope is that some of those individuals have seen the light at the end of the tunnel and gotten some relief from their insurance companies. And those that haven't, obviously, that we have a team that's ready to give them some assistance.
Rochelle, 100% of the people that I meet with, the first thing they say to me when we sit down to talk about what the process is, the first thing guaranteed they always say to me is, I just want you to know I'm not trying to make a bunch of money. I'm not trying to make a bunch of money. And I have to tell them, hey, I'm from Louisiana. I know as folks from Louisiana, we talk to each other from here. We talk to each other from our heart. We talk to each other like I'm talking to you as a human being. You're talking to me as a human being, and we have that mutual respect. And that's how they go about speaking to people who represent them, like insurance companies. They speak to the desk adjusters and the field adjusters like they're people, and they feel like they're getting their point across, and the humanity of the situation is coming across. And then at the end of the day, it's tough for people in Louisiana to come to the realization that, I'm not dealing with another person. I'm dealing with a company that's worried about the bottom line. And I have to reassure them that none of this is about making money. At the end of the day, it's really not about making money. The law is set up that way that, yes, you can make a lot of money. Yes. But that's not why it was set up. It was set up that way so you actually had teeth to hold the insurance companies accountable in the same way they hold you accountable. If you pay your premiums late, they're going to drop you. They're going to charge you late fees. They're going to do all these kinds of things. If you're late on your payment, they hold you accountable, right? So the state wanted to give you that same ability to shift that power dynamic where, us as policyholders, normally we get hit with a storm, we make a claim, we sit back, we wait, we get what we get, and we say, okay, cool, I'll do what I can, I'll fix what I can and move on. This law that was put in place was basically saying, hey, that's not right. You should be able to get your homes and your businesses back to where they were. Let's make it strong enough that you can actually hold these companies accountable. So it's at the end of the day, it's not really about making money. It's set up that way so that you can actually do what you need to do.
Right. Yeah, I'm glad you guys kind of discussed that, because I really would like to hear or have the viewers understand the importance of the insurance companies and their roles. And Attorney Yates, you really clearly kind of stated that. I know Attorney Rochelle Guiton, you had something else you wanted to add to that.
Well, no, I was just going to say that speaks to me, to the heart of Louisiana people. It's why we stay. It's why we stay in Louisiana. It's why we never want to leave, because our homes are more about, the culture and the community, and they're not trying to line their pockets. And I think, it just should speak volumes as to why people continue to stay, even with the harms of the hurricanes coming every year and getting worse. But you brought up something, Wynton, that, I wonder if you can kind of explain, what are those options when you say, the laws are in their favor. I don't know that people really know that.
Yeah, Louisiana has the best first-party insurance claim laws in the state, hands down. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Tommy, but
no, I agree. But you said state, in the country.
In the country,
well, we think,
yes.
In our opinion. Yeah, so just on a very, very quick overview, and I'll let Wynton get into the details of it. But essentially, the way the Louisiana statute or the code is laid out is these insurance carriers have 30 days to pay you from satisfactory proof of loss. That's the key phrase, satisfactory proof of loss. And after 30 days from satisfactory proof of loss, if you still have not been paid, there's a 50% penalty on all payments that you are owed or you were paid that were late, plus attorney's fees on top of that. And then additionally, if you get past 60 days of satisfactory proof of loss, depending on the situation, you open yourself up to potential other damages such as mental anguish and pain and suffering if it's applicable. But I would go as far to say for most people, the mental anguish, pain and suffering, that's an intangible. And while that's hard to quantify and extremely real, just from a practical standpoint, that 50% penalty plus attorney's fees at the 30-day mark is probably the most important part of the code for purposes of holding these insurance carriers accountable.
That's good information. I want to thank you guys for going over that. And we're going to kind of talk a little bit more about that here shortly. Now, I know we're approaching 6 months or a little bit over 6 months after the storm. And I want to ask you guys, based upon your experience and what you guys are seeing, are residents still displaced?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going out every day, and neighborhoods in Southeast Louisiana are lined with trailers outside of homes and debris piles on curbs. It looks like the storm happened yesterday. People are absolutely displaced. Last week, I met with a family that has its wife and a husband. They have 4 boys and just found out they are pregnant with their daughter, and they are in a trailer with 4 boys and a pregnant mother. And I feel horribly for them because their home is absolutely gutted. They have nothing. The house is absolutely gutted. And they're in a situation where they're at the whim of the insurance company who is saying, we sent you $20,000. That should be enough. Their house is gutted. It's gone.
Right. And those are some of those realities that some of you guys, viewers, and even you attorneys are experiencing with your clients and claimants as well. Now I have to ask the bigger question is, how can you guys help? What can you guys do to help the people that have been affected by Hurricane Ida?
Education is the first thing.
Yeah, I agree with Wynton. Education is the first thing, knowing your rights, knowing that these penalties do exist. The biggest objection that we get for these first-party insurance claims is we go into somebody's home, and let's just say they have $100 worth of damage. They go, okay, Mr. Tom or Wynton or Rochelle, I got $100 worth of damage. If you guys get involved and get me $100, I still got to pay y'all. So I'm not going to have enough money to fix my home. What do I do? And the way the law is written, you get the penalties plus the attorney's fees on top. So what that means is us lawyers, we work on something called a contingency fee of 33%, 1/3. So if we get to $3, you get 2, we get 1. Okay. And we get paid if and only if we win. So you will never come out of pocket. But the way that's applicable is if you need $100 to fix your home where the insurance carrier has underpaid you by $100, we're not demanding $100. We're demanding $100 plus the 50% penalty. So now you're at $150. Then you add attorney's fees on top of that. So really, instead of demanding $100, we're really probably demanding somewhere north of $200, $215, $220. And so the pie gets bigger. So then that's how, it's just about knowing your rights and knowing that, hey, listen, if I hire a lawyer, it's not a death sentence. It's not a way where, there's no way I can recover fully. In fact, it's quite frankly the opposite.
Right.
Well, and if I could just ask this question real quick, because this is what I think I see from my family. They want to know what not to do. What is it that they could be, either communicating to the insurance companies or doing wrong that could hurt their claim? Is there anything out there that you guys see that that like if they miss a deadline or something like that, is that harmful to their case, or can they push as hard as they can with their insurance companies and then still come to you for help?
They can push as hard as they can. And that goes to what we were saying at the beginning. We don't want people, if you called us in August or early September or October, we tell you, look, it's still too early to get us involved. You go and fight until the very end. And people have different capacities. Some people at the 6-month mark, they say, Tom, I'm tired. I've hit a dead, I've got my 5th adjuster. I don't want to do it. I hit a dead wall. I'm tired. I have people in Lake Charles who are still hiring us, this week, and it's been 18 months since the storm. So what I would say is push as hard as you can. But the thing that gets people in trouble is you have to be wary of your fatigue. Don't keep pushing if you're tired, because then you're going to concede things. And what that looks like is, let's just say you have $30,000 to your house, due to you, or you need $30,000 to fix the siding or put on a new roof or whatever it is. The insurance company is going to say, okay, I'm going to give you $5,000. I'm going to give you $5,000. I'm going to give you $5,000. And then 6 months later, you wear them down and they go, okay, instead of $5,000, I'm going to pay $7,000. And people in their mind, they justify themselves giving up when it's just not the case. You can keep fighting. You can keep going. You can take them as far as you possibly can, and then get a lawyer, if that makes sense.
Yes, that's perfect information. Now, I do want to ask a loaded question. So tell us the process that your firm goes through, our firm at D. Miller & Associates as well, for hurricane claims.
Well, the first step in the process is I usually will go out to somebody's house and sit down with them and just let them ask me any and all questions that they might have. I explain the process, how it works, how long it could take. And that's really the first step. And to me, the most important step is allowing people to unload their concerns and their questions and just anything that's on their mind. And sometimes, a lot of the times, people just want somebody that's going to sit there and listen. And that's it. They may not even really have questions about the process. They don't even really care about the process. They just know when we get involved, we're going to take over. We're going to get it handled. They're going to get what they need to fix their house. And that's it. Really, all they want is for me to come in and for somebody who understands what they're going through to sit or even walk around and say, show me what you got. And they go, this caved in, the floor is damaged. I lost the back of the house came down, and the wind. They just want somebody to listen to their story and listen to what they've been through. And I think that is the first, and for me, the most important step in the process is just allowing people to kind of lay down a little bit of that frustration and that burden they've been carrying so long.
And then after that, once the client's on board and we have their trust, then we have to start building out the file. And that looks like a bunch of different ways, just depending on what they have. So we need to know the full extent of the damage. So if a homeowner says, my insurance company's paid us $50,000, but I really have $150,000 worth of damage, then we ask, okay, how do you know you have $150,000 worth of damage? Do you have other contractor bids? Have you hired a public adjuster? And if not, then we send our own expert out there, and he or she will do a proper report, an independent estimate of how much damage they think exists, and then we'll kind of know what we're looking at. Because we need to be able to articulate to the insurance company why our position is supported. And so then once we have an understanding of what's going on, then we probably end up filing a lawsuit, just on the vast majority of cases. And again, it's going to depend on a case-by-case basis, but that's generally the only way that these insurance companies listen to you. And that's the biggest knock on public adjusters or trying to deal with these claims yourself. Is it's frustrating because you don't feel like you really have any authority with the insurance company. You can give them the most beautiful report in the world saying, hey, here's all my damage. It's supported by beautiful evidence. What's stopping the insurance adjuster just from on the other end of the phone saying, oh, thanks for sending that, and hanging up? There's nothing. But when you file a lawsuit, they have to respond to you. And so that's really the biggest power of having a lawyer. So getting them signed up, are building out the damage model, corroborating expert reports, whether that via contractor, public adjuster, or our own experts. And then once we understand what kind of damage model we're looking at, then we initiate the case.
And it's really interesting when we send our experts out. When I go talk to people, just with the frustration level that they're at, and they're just tired, they're living in a trailer, and they just can't go through the process anymore, and they're just right on the edge of conceding with the insurance company and saying, you know what, I'm going to throw my hands up, I'm going to take what I can and do what I can. And then we say, hold on, let's send an expert out, let's send a public adjuster out to take a look at what you got. And in their minds, they're thinking, okay, I just want to get my roof fixed. And I have to say, hold on. Has anybody looked in your walls? Has anybody stuck a moisture meter in your walls? Or I'm walking in and I can look down, and I'm just an attorney, and I can look down and look at people's hardwood floors and see where the water got in there, swelled it up. And you can see gaps in the middle of the floor. And I can look down and say, yeah, from being from Louisiana, we know if you got water up top, you got water at the bottom, because water is going to get to the lowest point. It's always going to get to the lowest point. And you can look down and see where water's gotten. And we'll have public adjusters and experts come out and stick a moisture meter in the wall and say, yeah, you got water in your walls. And then it clicks and they think, oh, well, I thought I just needed my roof done. Now I got my drywall's bad. And then you look down and your hardwood floor is splitting, and they're like, oh, well, I can live with that. No, there's no reason you should have to live with that. It wasn't like that before. You should be able to fix that and get it back to where it was.
Wow.
I got another question to follow up with that, because when you talk about the processes and you start talking about litigation, so I'm a litigator. And I agree with you 100%, Tommy. Like, filing a complaint means everything, right? And it basically shows what, this company that thinks, they're going to bully these people into, caving in on the value of their homes and what they're going through, that we mean business, that you've got somebody that's ready to fight for it. But if I know my people, like I know them, in Louisiana, litigation is scary. They're not troublemakers. If I can just kind of reiterate the point, like, they don't want to line their pockets. They don't want to think I'm trying to line my attorney's pockets. And so how do you kind of ease their concerns of what that looks like for them? Does it mess up their relationship with the insurance company? Those are some of the things that I know, just kind of that, like, sure, Southern, thought processes. They don't want to fight it out. They just want their homes. And so how do you ease that, that concern and assure them that, it's really necessary?
Sure. Well, first of all, there's no other way to put it other than, there might be some discomfort. And I understand that, hiring a lawyer and suing, and that sounds bad and it's difficult. It is. And we're not trying to diminish that. And we know it's serious. But on the back end, to make the client feel better, first of all, there's no blacklist. That's a phrase that we always get. They go, am I going to be blacklisted for suing an insurance carrier? And the answer is no. They cannot blacklist you for enforcing your contractual right. I mean, that's what an insurance policy is. It's a contract. It says if you had $100 worth of damage, they need to pay you $100. And if they don't, then you have to bring a case. And unfortunately, the reality is in order for them to force them to do what you want, you have to file a lawsuit. And it is uncomfortable. And the best thing that we can do as lawyers is just be honest and say, listen, this is what we're going to do. It's uncomfortable. There's no blacklist, but it is what it is. And also, not to sound so pessimistic or just get out all the bad stuff, but Wynton and I talk about this all the time. We have a really, really high retention rate and success rate, like incredibly high. And that's because we're borderline, not mean, but we're just so upfront with our clients that we only want to work with people who have a real understanding and a realistic expectation of this process. And the other expectation with litigation, which is why we fight so hard for people not to hire us only until they're at the end of their rope, is it is not quick.
Right.
Once we get involved, once we file a lawsuit, everything's going to stop. They're going to stop talking to you. They're only going to talk through us. We're going to have to go through the court process. We're going to have to go through hearings. We might have to take depositions. We're going to have to do discovery. All that stuff's going to take time. And for Ida, there's so many parishes that are affected, and there's probably going to be thousands on thousands of claims. Literally, there's going to be tens of thousands of claims if I had to guess. Maybe, conservatively, 30, 40,000 claims, I think.
For sure.
The court system, it's not fast, and it's going to be clogged up. In Hurricane Laura in Calcasieu Parish, because it only falls under one primary parish that was affected, there's a streamlined settlement process. There's a streamlined process where all the cases fall under one specific order. We get quicker discovery, we get quicker trial dates, we get quicker settlement conferences and mediations and all that stuff. That is not the case in Hurricane Ida. So I know I'm kind of going completely 180 on your question on how to make them feel more comfortable.
What I wanted you to answer.
They need to hear what it really is with no sugarcoating. Our job, Wynton always says, our job is not to get you money quickly. It's to get you the right amount and the most amount of money that we can get you.
I'll tell you this, Rochelle. Frustration makes a lot of people comfortable with a lot more than they thought they would be. So, like, I hear you, and I'm with you. Everybody from Louisiana, myself included, we don't want to ruffle feathers where we don't have to. But when people in these situations get to a level of frustration where they just say, "I'm done. I don't care. Do what you got to do." Because they're sitting in a trailer looking at their house gutted out. We're 6, 7, almost 8 months out. And there's no end in sight. There's no check in sight. And they're at the point where frustration squashes all that other stuff. And they call us and they say, "You know what? What's the process?
Have your way. Yeah.
Let's just do it."
Right.
Yeah.
And I have a couple of questions. I know, Attorney Tommy, you kind of were mentioning the timing and just being realistic with the pandemic and how this normally takes in the legal world, which a lot of us, including myself, have no idea how long this takes. If you had to give a time frame or an average for, those that are watching can say, okay, now I get it why it's taking this long. Do you have a time frame or an average? I know nothing's going to be as you're saying right now. Perfect.
Yeah. So the short answer is no, because this is completely unknown. I can tell you that in Lake Charles, Calcasieu Parish, because there's a streamlined settlement process, things are easier, where our average case is taking about 9 to 12 months. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, wow, 9 to 12 months, that's a long time. In the legal world, that is like lightning.
Mm-hmm.
That is like the fastest case. In addition to doing first party insurance stuff, my primary practice is catastrophic personal injury. I have cases that are 3 years old and are going to be another 3 years, and I'm sure Rochelle can tell you the exact same thing. So with Hurricane Ida, and what we're pushing really, really hard on, and it's not just us, it's lawyers on both sides of the aisle, to be fair. It's lawyers on the plaintiff side representing homeowners and insurance companies, just because it's an efficiency thing. We're pushing really, really hard to get a streamlined settlement process for Hurricane Ida. However, to date, that has not happened yet. And I don't want to go out on a limb and say, it's going to happen, because I don't want to give people false hope. So as it stands right now, without any sort of streamlined process, I don't feel comfortable giving a time, but I say, minimum a year. We tell people just from the onset, we say, look, prepare for 2 years. And if it gets done quicker than that, then great. Now, that's not to say that there are exceptions. We've all had cases before where we pick up the phone, we make a couple phone calls, they seem really receptive. The case is settled in, 2 months, 3 months. That always happens, but that is not the rule by any means. So we tell our clients, look, get as far as you can. Once you hit a wall where you feel like the insurance carrier is not going to pay you any more money, then turn over the case to a lawyer, whether it's us or somebody else, then let us go fight from there. Which is why, we advocate for that. And that's why, on a personal note, I get a little pet peeved when I see these lawyers wanting to sign up cases right after the storm, because they're basically, wanting their clients to defer any sort of payment until the litigation process is over.
No, I'm glad you said that, because it's a huge pet peeve of mine as well, because when you're going in these people's houses, you see them totally gutted out. And we understand that the process could take 2 years, 3 years, it could be a very long process. They're not going to see that money to fix that house for that long. But if they can get as much money out of the insurance company as they can up front, they can at least start doing something. They can prioritize things. They can get the roof done. That way, water intrusion isn't getting worse. Or they can, if the roof isn't an issue, we have a lot of people who have foundational issue or just structural issues, and they have to reset their home. So like some people just need to hire somebody out to level their home out. But you're not going to be able to do any of that if you immediately sign up with an attorney. That just draws out your timeline to even be able to start fixing anything.
Yeah. But regardless, now that we're at that 6-month time period, it's right around that point where people start to realize that if my insurance company hasn't come around yet, I'm probably not getting anywhere.
For sure.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, Attorney Kherkher, every case is different. Now, is there anything that you guys could advise those viewers that are watching right now of what they should or should not say to the insurance adjusters that may hurt their case or maybe help their case?
No, again, this isn't like a personal injury matter where they can really cross-examine you. The most important thing is these files are fluid in the sense that material costs are going up. You might not fully understand the extent of your damage, like Wynton was talking about. So don't feel ashamed or don't feel like you're pigeonholed if you got approved for a $15,000 roof and it took them 90 days to pay, and then by the time they paid, your roof was now cost $20,000 just because of the price of materials has gone up. Insurance claims, it's not when individuals are dealing with the insurance company, the claim is open. So even if they're paying you money, you can keep on getting money, distribution after distribution after distribution, so long as, the insurance company is willing. So what I see happen a lot is people get some form of initial payment and then they stop pressing further because they go, okay, well, this is what the insurance company agreed to pay me. It's like, no, your claim is still open. You can keep on fighting as long as possible. But with respect to not saying anything or notifying them, no. I mean, it's just these insurance companies are so bad, and this just goes to the fault of, or not to the fault, but to the principle that people just want what they're owed.
Mm-hmm.
If insurance companies treated people right, we wouldn't have jobs, and that's okay, and that would be a great world to live in. But it's just not the case. I mean, I would say the biggest thing that people get wrong is they pigeonhole themselves in the context of, oh, well, I didn't realize my wall was damaged the first time I notified my insurance company, but I don't want to let them know now because I don't want that to seem like I'm being deceptive, because I know they're going to ask, why didn't I say it the first time or whatever. It's just stuff like that. But no, I mean, I want people to be as transparent as possible with their insurance company because they need to understand what they need to pay.
And we understand as homeowners, like sometimes damage doesn't reveal itself until later. Sometimes you have roof damage and, you don't start seeing a water spot on the wall until a few months down the wall and you go, oh, crap. Okay, I think I got water coming in somewhere. And then you realize you've got more. So like Tommy was saying, I think the worst thing you can do is just downplay the damages you have, just with that spirit of like, okay, I don't want to ruffle. I just want to get my roof fixed. Don't downplay it. If you got roof damage and you got water intrusion and it messed your floors up, tell them, hey, my floors are messed up. My roof is messed up. I got a cracked tell them. If you know it's there, tell them. And if it pops up, tell them.
Right. And while you guys are talking about the damages, I kind of want to touch a little bit about that because some hurricanes in the past have caused flooding, have caused wind damage. They've caused different types of damages. So based upon this hurricane in particular, Hurricane Ida, what are the damages that you guys are seeing, or are you guys seeing all of it on this hurricane?
Everything. Roof, major water intrusion, shattered window. I mean, trees coming down and devastating houses completely. We've got one client that we have who's he's actually paralyzed from the waist down, custom built his house so that he could be independent, totally wiped his house out completely. I mean, and then we've got some that you can walk into it and it looks fine, but you can look at the wall and see, okay, there's a crack there. That means something shifted. And then we'll get somebody to come out and they'll say, okay, your foundation shifted, something like that. People don't realize Ida brought 160 mile per hour winds. That was pushing some stuff around. That'll push your house to the side.
And Attorney Yates, you're mentioning on potentially other damages coming about. When is a good time frame to where damages can stop being reported, or until the damages stop? Like once you see a crack or the foundation, is it a year after the hurricane, or as long as there's still damages, you can still report them?
As long as there are still damages, you should report them. If they're coming out, report them. If you can show that it was storm related, report it.
Perfect. Okay. Now I know we're kind of coming close to the end of the show, and I definitely want to advise those of you guys that are watching, if you guys suffered or know of anyone that also have been through Hurricane Ida, and like the attorney said, just don't have another means right now to the end, and you've tried to reach out to the insurance adjusters and you are at the point where you need help, that information is on the comment section, so make sure you reach out to us and we will make sure one of these three attorneys reaches out to you, if not all of them, because they all are hands-on on this case and willing to help you. Now, attorneys, I do want to ask you guys if there's anything that I did not cover that is important and you guys want to communicate that to our community. What information would you like to leave our viewers with today?
I'll jump in. I want to make sure people understand this is not just for residential homeowners. This is business owners too. I go to a lot of places of business. This affected a lot of people with companies and, mom and pop shops and people that, invested in real estate and, own a strip mall where they're renting out to businesses and half of their strip mall collapsed. This is for business owners as well, so that you can get your doors back open and, start servicing your community like you were before.
Right. And what I would say is, please look at your policy. We see homeowners and commercial property owners who have coverages that they didn't even know about. And quite frankly, the insurance company is not going to do you any favors and remind you that you have any coverages. And it could be little things like $10,000 for debris removal or $25,000 for code upgrades, which means that like if there was damage to your house and you need new wiring that now, supports a new code that wasn't in existence when your house was built, you get money for that. So there are tons of things, and these penalties apply across the board, not just the property damage. There's property, there's ALE, there's your contents. As long as the key phrase, like I said at the beginning, is satisfactory proof of loss. So let the insurance company know everything that's going on, and give them an opportunity to do the right thing. But if they don't, just know that you have legal rights.
Awesome. And Attorney Rochelle Guiton, for those that are watching right now that are very frustrated in this matter, we're talking 6 months after the hurricane and they are still without a home, displaced, their house is gutted. What words of advice would you give for those viewers that are watching now?
I would just remind my people from Louisiana that they're resilient, that, we've been through tough times before, and that we always come out on top. And so don't let the frustrations with the process and the insurance companies, really bully you. or, make you shy away from what you know is right and what the value of your homes and your businesses and your churches bring to the community as a whole. And so just being able to remember that. And I'm just, just to share this, I was in my second week of law school as a first year law student when Hurricane Katrina hit, and my home flooded. And I had 5.5 feet of water in uptown New Orleans. And I remember sitting in a hotel room, seeing the water on the street sign of my street. And it was devastating to see that and then not know, for a month, even what my home looked like, because I couldn't get to my home. And so, you're not alone. And there are people who deal with these issues and know how, that understand the law and what you are owed and what you deserve. And so be patient with the process. And if you ever need the help, that we're here. But just to remind them that they're resilient, that, they're going to bounce back from this and our communities are going to be better than ever.
Thank you for that. And Attorney Kherkher, Attorney Yates, and Attorney Guiton, it's such an honor to have you guys on today's show. And I know if we have more questions come up, we might have to do a part 2 to talk a little bit more about these details. So I want to thank you from the bottom of our heart for joining us today on Talk to Me Tuesday.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely. It was a lot of fun.
Yes, it's a pleasure. So for those of you guys that are watching, we know that there are tough times when it comes to natural disasters. So if you need help or if you have any questions, please reach out on the comments section on our website or our email, which is wecare@dmillerlaw.com. And like Attorney Rochelle Guiton said, you are not alone. You have attorneys here that are currently living there, that have been through it, and that are here to help for the best interest of you guys. So we want to thank you for tuning in to Talk to Me Tuesday on a Tuesday. I'm your host, Madi B. Until next time.